Happy birthday to you.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. I admire you so much. You're talented, you're funny, you're kind.
Happy birthday.
I'm glad to join many of your friends in wishing you the best of this day and in thanking you for making us laugh and making us think.
This is the Clean Energy Show with Brian Stockton and James Whittingham.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Brian.
Welcome. Hello, James.
This is our 6-month anniversary special.
Fantastic.
How are you?
I'm good. Does that even count as a birthday?
No, it's more of a 6. Yeah, plus, yes. Yes. Yes, my little neighbor next door was born on Christmas Day, and she has a birthday party in July where it doesn't conflict with the big holiday. So yes, it is a wonderful anniversary, 6-month. You know, most podcasters, Brian, last 2.6 episodes.
Right.
And we are in episode, what?
26.
26. It is mid-August, and we are suffering a heat wave of epic proportions, which I fully welcome because I enjoy using my pool, and it's solar heated, and in mid-August, we start not to be able to use it very much anymore because the days are shorter, and the sun is weaker, and the nights are cooler. They're 8 degrees instead of 13 or 14, and it kills the temperature. And also, I got a fancy thermometer from the Amazon yesterday that gives me a graph of my pool heating on my phone so I can see what's going on.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yes, we have many birthday wishes to get to, aside from various presidential people, and they've been flowing in quite constantly here. Dave Broadback has wished us a happy birthday as well. He's on Twitter. A lot of people on Twitter these days, Brian.
So we're 1/20th of the way through our 10-year limited series podcast.
Already. Wow. That gives one pause. It's going by fast. Steve Newmandahl also wishes us a happy birthday. Thank you, Steve. And thanks to our many listeners out there on Twitter, Clean Energy Pod on Twitter. So what do you have for this week, Brian? How are you doing? Did you see any movies this week?
No, but I want to talk about movies for a second. But yeah, we need to talk about the Candy Chinese electric car, which is launching soon in the U.S., blackouts in California, conversions of diesel buses. I want to talk about that. But yeah, I want to talk about movies for a second because, of course, movie theaters have been closed because of the pandemic. And but I just got word in my inbox today in my email that the new Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet, is opening at our IMAX theater, our local IMAX theater. And so I have to make a decision if it's worth risking my life or not.
You know, the interesting thing about the IMAX theater, Brian, is that you are kind of socially distanced from the person in front of you. They're like quite a ways down below you and blocked by a seat. It's
a very steep rake, and they're only gonna sell 30 tickets per screening.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's tempting.
So, but I don't particularly like Christopher Nolan as a director, but I enjoy the experience because he's one of the few people that actually shoots on IMAX film. Like, this is not digital. He shoots on an IMAX film camera, and our local IMAX theater actually projects on IMAX film. It's not a digital theater. So this is, the potential reopening of the American movie industry, which has been closed. They've got all of these multi-$100-million blockbusters that they haven't been able to release because of the pandemic. And even as theaters open, it's like they still don't want to release them because, you know, if you can only sell a limited number of tickets, are they ever going to get back, you know, the $200 million budget? So, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to go or not.
Well, I guess the IMAX theater is used to 30 people in a cinema. I mean, that's not unusual.
Yeah, but that's often the case.
You're a guy who doesn't go out.
Well, yeah, but I'm surprised how much I miss going to the movies. I have gone more often to the cinema in the last few years. And I'm getting real withdrawals from not seeing new movies.
And this is a guy who has a cinema in his basement, the Stockton Cinematheque.
I have an excellent home theater in the basement, and I have used that as much as possible, and it's great, especially in a heat wave because it's cooler in the basement.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's opening on August 26th at our local IMAX, and which is coming up soon.
Well, let us know what you do. You can give us a 20-second review if you like, and yeah, that's interesting to know what's going on because yeah, I don't know. Back to school's coming up, and yeah, maybe if you are going to go soon before the school, amplifies any of the pandemic or anything like that. I have the air conditioning running full time. Well, not full time, but yeah, full time. The last couple of days, probably used it more in the last few days than I have all year. It's 35 degrees Celsius here in Regina. Has a little bit of humidity, and fairly warm night, about 17, 18 degrees, which is warm for here. Warm enough for them to issue a heat warning. 17 or 18 degrees would be pretty cold for a lot of people. I wanted to talk about Death Valley because Death Valley made a heat record the other day. I forget what it is. It was something like 56 degrees. And
54.4 Celsius.
That's what they reached?
Yeah, 130 Fahrenheit.
No. That can't be right. Is that right? Are you sure? Are your facts correct?
My facts are correct.
Are you sure your facts are correct? That doesn't seem right. Because you see, Brian, I was there when it was 50 degrees 2 years ago, around now.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And we were in LA and heading home, and I wanted to squeeze in one more national park. And we basically made a day trip out of Death Valley National, which is, if anyone is listening and hasn't been there and is wondering about it, I really highly recommend it. It was one of the most unique nature experiences of my life. And part of it was because it was 50 freaking degrees. And not only was it 50 degrees Celsius, which I believe was 122. And at the time, the record was like 128 or something. It was like, I was thinking, I'm in that close to the hottest recorded temperature in human history. It was ridiculous to think about. But just the landscape and everything, and being there after dark and seeing it come to life. We were there after dark, and we got out of the car and we're walking around, and the whole place sort of comes to life. And you think there's no life here, and then it all comes to life after dark, and you hear everything going on. But it's just quite phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. It's just so different, and it was very windy. So you might say, James, good. It was 50 degrees. You had a nice wind to cool you off. The wind made it worse. The wind was like the reverse wind chill, because my skin literally burned in a painful way, like a wind chill would burn if you were naked outdoors at minus 50. And it was
like a hairdryer.
Sure, it was like a hairdryer, except a big mother of a hairdryer, in a gigantic scale blowing at you. And it was just, I couldn't stay outside for more than about 10 minutes at a time, and 10, 15 minutes at a time. It was just, I felt like we had a brand new Prius at the time, and it was working well. And I Googled it beforehand if they had any trouble with that weather. But that's also, interestingly, that's Death Valley. We saw all kinds of test vehicles, like wrapped in camouflage.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, all the there's not much around Death Valley. There's like one or two little communities or little villages that have a few things in them, and all the test cars were parked there. And I swear I saw a Kia Soul EV there, or maybe even three of them. I remember you. Yeah, I saw a picture you sent at one time. Yeah, I couldn't get close enough because I was starting to wilt. So I had to run back to the air conditioning. But if that car broke down, I don't know. I think James would be a dried apricot eaten by a bird by now, because it was hot. What else you got going on this week? Certainly, they've got to test cars in hot conditions, and then they will also go up to Alaska and northern Canada sometimes to test the winter conditions. And Norway, I think they do a lot of that. Yeah, you got to go to Saskatchewan, man. They should have winter testing right here in Saskatchewan, because Alaska doesn't get that cold all over the place. I mean, sure, there's places in away from the population that gets cold, but Juneau's right on the coast, and Anchorage and places like that aren't far from the coast. Most of the population lives there on the coast. Come on, man. Come to Saskatchewan. Yeah. And that's where my Leaf is being tested every winter, and your Tesla Model 3 soon, too. In other small talk news, Brian, I saw for the first time in the flesh a Tesla Model Y in Regina, Saskatchewan. It was white, and it was being driven, and like everything in my life, it has a weird story to it because I was thinking of following it and getting a picture. It turns out that as I was doing so, it was just leaving town going east. There was a tornado warning that came on my phone that didn't come to my family's phone in the other part of Regina, but because of the cell tower, the tornado warning was there, and I could see a nasty storm, and I almost drove into it. So yes, another time I almost died chasing a Model Y. My opinion of the Model Y was, boy, that baby's big. In fact, I had to make sure it wasn't an X because I looked for the Falcon Wing doors, no Falcon Wing doors, normal doors. That's how big it was. People keep saying they mistake the 3 for the Y, but they're not. Right. They're very different.
Yeah, I haven't. I guess I did see one at a distance in Vancouver, but yeah, it's a bigger car, but they've managed to keep the efficiency pretty close to the 3.
Yes, and they're finding that out. The efficiency is actually quite good, and it is aerodynamic. It doesn't look like a big boxy SUV or SUV wannabe in any way at all. Another thing that happened to me yesterday, Brian, as I was at the Canadian Tire, you might say, James, why do you go to Canadian Tire all the time? Well, I had to buy pool chemicals. I had to buy the pH up because my pH was off, and the Canadian Tire near my house was out of it, so I had to go to 2 Canadian Tires. And the guy at the cashier says to me, he says, how you liking your electric car? And I said, what? Do I have a T-shirt on? You know, and he said he was at my presentation at the library last fall and enjoyed it. And this is important, he is totally sold on electric cars.
Great.
And what did it for him was my video starting a electric car in -40, which you can find on our YouTube channel now.
Oh, you moved it there. Great.
I moved it there, and yeah, what a great place for it.
Yeah, that reminds me, I got to finish that video, don't I?
Oh, good. Oh, good. You were reminded by that. Well, maybe I'll just email you every day. The listeners out there, Brian, are waiting, and they're impatient.
I know. People are clamoring.
This is epic. This is like people anticipating, give me somebody, Christopher Nolan's new film or something like that. Unless you don't like Christopher Nolan, but you just want to go to the movies. That would teach you to catch COVID at the theater and somebody you don't particularly like.
I'll get to that soon.
Okay, Brian, I've got my big story of the week, and my big story of the week, and I'm not going to say it right away, but I tell you, every week I come up with a story that I think is important for moving the whole clean transition forward, or is a sign of it, or is it an encouraging point. But I'm going to start with you. What do you have first?
Well, Kandi, your favorite electric car brand, a Chinese brand, they have received approval to sell 2 cars in the United States.
That's good.
And so they're getting closer to launch, and they have announced a discount for the first 1,000 cars. So there's a cheaper one that after federal tax credit in the United States will be $9,999.
Yeah, okay, that's $10,000. Now let me work this out here, because in some states you get a state tax break as well. Let's call it $2,500. Okay. So you're going to pay $7,500 for a 4-door small electric car, with a small range, like 80 miles. Let's call it 100 kilometers to be real, okay? Because the battery's pretty small. It's actually 2/3 the size of my Leaf, my first-gen Leaf, 17, 18 kilowatts. However, first of all, I'm going to say that's not going to work in Canada because of the cold weather. Okay, so let's just cross that off the list. But everywhere is not Canada. United States, most people in the United States live in a fairly warm climate, so that's going to do them for 100 kilometers, and that's a perfectly usable range. Let's say you've got a child named Johnny. You send Johnny to college. You want to give Johnny a car. $7,500. There's e-bikes, Brian. There's e-bikes that sell for that much. High-end e-bikes. That's crazy.
Yep. Crazy.
And there's luggage, and you can take your buddies in it. And I don't know if it's crash tested yet, but yeah. And then, now let's get this straight. It's only the first 1,000 customers that are getting it that cheap, right?
Yeah. And then you add $2,500 after
Which isn't much, but still.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. Have you seen any reviews for it yet?
No reviews yet, but, and then they have the more expensive one as well. So the full MSRP is basically 20 grand for the cheaper one and 30 grand for the more expensive one before, any discounts or tax credits. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But it almost doesn't matter if it's any good at that price. It's so cheap.
Okay. Well, Brian, I'm going to have my big story of the week in one moment.
You're listening to The Clean Energy Show. Welcome our regular listeners, Don Cornelius, John Klein, and Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. And now back to People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, 1996, James Whittingham.
Thank you, Terrence. We're back with my big story of the week, and that is, it's actually something that I don't normally like to talk about, Brian. I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. It is wait for it, it's a luxury car. Now, I don't like to talk about luxury cars because nobody can buy a luxury car. And I want to see mass adoption of luxury cars. But there's a luxury car coming out. Do you know what it is? I'll give you a hint. It's got a lot of range. 832 kilometers. Okay. Do you know what it is?
Is that the Lucid?
Yes, the Lucid car. We've been hearing about the Lucid car for years, and I kind of started to put it on the back burner. Okay, it's another startup. Enough with the startups. I want to see real action. The big car players should be doing things, but this is a startup, and they're finally releasing a car, and yeah, it's a luxury car. Yes, it's a luxury car. Not everybody can buy it, and it is a car, but it's a big car, and I can go, they just released the specs. 832 kilometers range. That is enough range for anybody. That's as high a range as you should go without diminishing returns. There is no question that is the theoretical high-end 517 miles on a single charge. And get this, wait for it. Wait for it. 30 kilometers per minute charging at level 3. So a 10-minute stop at a level 3 charger gives you 2.5 hours of driving, I would say, on the highway. There's more. It's 300 kilowatt peak charge rate. That's what we're talking about here. That's Tesla is at 250 right now. And a shocking 19 kilowatt hour level 2 charge in your driveway. It can go up. Nobody does that. And that gives you 130 kilometers per hour in your driveway. And the reason why I find this is exciting, and the reason why this is my top story, is because it is a look at where we're going. People might be picky about the EVs in the market. They might say X number of kilometers is not enough. Well, here's a glimpse into the future, and it is with a new car that is coming out now. And yes, new technology in electric cars, or in any car, comes in luxury cars first and trickles down. So, 832 kilometer range, fastest charging that there is on a car that's going to be on the market, on the highway when you're at a level 3 supercharger, and the fastest charging in your driveway. I mean, your electrician is going to go crazy hooking up a 19 kilowatt charger, which they supply. And there's more. You want more? There's more. It has built-in two-way charging, so you can, in the future, be able to charge your house or power your house or use it as a grid money generator. You sell it to the grid when the grid needs it. And that's a big fat battery in that baby that gives you 832. What's your thoughts, Brian?
Well, my thought is, how real is this? How soon is this coming out?
September. That's what they're saying. They're saying September.
Okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay, you're skeptical. No, it's my job to be skeptical on this show. You're getting into my territory here. And Brian, what else do you want to say?
Yeah, that's all. Just that I'm skeptical, and but it's all good news as long as it happens.
Well, why don't you think it's going to happen? You think they're lying? They're announcing the specs on the car that it's going to be out next month, and I guess so. I guess it's just like you. I've sort of got startup fatigue. I've been hearing about Lucid for a long time now, many years, tracking these various things, and it's time for them to put up or shut up. All right, Brian. Well, we've been you and I both came across a story from June this week by accident in different ways. I think it was my son who mentioned that there's a stadium in Seattle that Amazon bought the naming rights to. It's the second time we mentioned Amazon on the show this week. I'm sorry. And instead of calling it Amazon Arena, they're calling it Climate Pledge Arena. Climate Pledge Arena.
Yeah, I do remember hearing about that because the whole naming thing came out a few months ago, and I wasn't really paying attention. It wasn't until a video showed up in my YouTube feed about the stadium itself, and there's several videos online about how they built this thing. So that just in itself is interesting. It's a 1962 arena that they have remade, and but the whole construction of it is crazy. Like they basically just kept the roof and then dug everything out underneath it, and then rebuilt a new stadium at twice the size underneath the same roof. It's kind of crazy.
Well, we have a clip here.
Well, in 1962, an architect named Paul Thury designed this building for the World's Fair. In true Seattle style, we've saved the roof and recycled this building.
This has been an effort by community through and through. We're going to break ground on this, and when this is done, it will be the best arena anywhere.
There's never been a game plan for something like this.
I'm proud that this whole project is really about climate and the climate pledge, and not being named after sort of a big corporation. It's actually being named after a vision. The idea that we need to move to a responsible place around climate.
Buildings like this were dependent upon gas, natural gas. Well, we're not going to have gas in this building.
We're going to be capturing rainwater from our roofs and using it to make the ice.
How can you not have a building that's committed to the climate pledge? How can our players not be skating on anything other than rainwater?
We got rid of all fossil fuel use. We've fully decarbonized. We've gotten rid of natural gas for everything in the arena. The electricity to make the ice is renewable. All the electricity is also being generated by off-site solar farms, so completely powered by renewable energy. Even the Zamboni's electric.
All right, I like the electric Zamboni. I know you do too. But I'll also say that rainwater, I mean, how much water do you use to flood a rink? Is that going to make much of a difference?
Yeah, it's a nice touch that it's rainwater for the ice, but yeah, it's probably not super necessary. But the whole thing can be sort of seen as a kind of a demonstration project, I guess, and it's costing $1 billion. And there's certainly also a carbon footprint to building the thing because it's an insane $1 billion construction project. But the building should be sustainable and carbon neutral going forward. It's a pretty cool thing.
I think it's I guess it's the cost. Like Amazon has deep pockets; they can do whatever they want to make a point. But as cost and experience gets into play here and expands on these things, I think that you're going to save money, or you're going to come out maybe more even than you used to be without losing money by making it green. It's like when you buy a house, you can buy a passive solar house and spend 15-20% on super insulation and make that up over time and have lower mortgage payments in Canada when you're heating the house on the prairies here, for example. Or you can just buy a house, the best house you can, for 20% less, which is what most people do. But the extra investment in, technology, clean tech technology, pays off after a while.
Yeah, it's something we often say on the show. It costs more upfront, but it's cheaper in the long run.
Now, I like to see stadiums and arenas with solar panels right on them. Not that can power everything that you need, but at least you do some of it, and you show that it's not just all off on a farm in Arizona some way. You know what, Brian? It's been hot, and I was looking at my solar numbers on my roof, and yesterday was a completely cloud-free day, and I'm facing south. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that I figured I'd probably lose 20% if it was 8 degrees yesterday, 8 degrees Celsius. If it was a cool day and still the same time of the year with the sun in the same position, I would have 20% more electricity in one day. So it makes me wonder how Arizona and all those places is so perfect for solar, but Saskatchewan isn't. I mean, basically it's our short winters. But boy, in the summer, you certainly get a lot of solar here. But heat does affect solar. The ambient temperature of the panel, once it hits 25 degrees Celsius, starts to go down, starts to lose efficiency. And it doesn't take a 25-degree day to do that because the sun's shining on it and they're black. So it could be 15 degrees.
All right. I want to get back to the arena for a second here. One interesting thing about the story, too, is that it's where the Seattle Kraken are going to play, which coincidentally we started talking about a couple of weeks ago.
Did you get the hat yet?
I have not got the hat yet, but it's coming through the U.S. Postal Service, so who knows how long that's going to take. But yeah, this is where the Seattle Kraken are going to play. And I didn't realize this, but Seattle no longer has an NBA franchise. So they're hoping this new arena will attract NBA back to Seattle.
That's what my son was telling me. Yeah, it's made for both multi-use, I guess.
I always thought that the Seattle Supersonics were their NBA team, but apparently they've been gone for a while now.
Okay, and so are the Expos, by the way.
So did you happen to see how they cut the foundation to this building when there's a YouTube video about this. So yeah, really all they saved from the old arena was the roof, and it's this massive roof. So they had to prop up the roof and then dig everything out underneath it. But they had to cut the concrete support columns that were holding up the roof. And they did that using high pressure water.
Really?
So they got all of these supports in place. And recycled rainwater. They had all these supports in place, and then just one by one, they took a high-pressure hose and disintegrated all the concrete.
That's amazing. Cutting edge, I take it. By the way, Brian, we have a late-breaking birthday wish for our 6-month anniversary special. Adrian Dean has wished us a happy birthday. Thank you, Adrian.
Fantastic.
Model 3 owner, I believe, if my profile is correct.
Oh, and speaking of Amazon, did you hear Amazon's getting into podcasts?
Yes, because I think I got some sort of notification about that as a podcast registrant. Go on. Yeah,
so the one thing is you can't say anything bad about Amazon. They don't want that.
Okay, let me just say something here. Well, I can. Fuck Amazon. Fuck them.
Screw them. Yeah,
go to hell.
Screw them. We don't need them.
You're evil.
Okay, I got a story here. They've got rolling blackouts now in California. Did you hear about this?
That is correct. Yes, and you know what you want, of course, is a solar array on your roof and a Tesla Powerwall.
Yeah, or I mean a battery backup of any kind. There are other players in that field, but yeah, apparently, according to Green Tech Media, they have maybe shut down some of their natural gas plants a little too soon. They're trying to shut down the natural gas and power up solar and battery backup, but they've maybe gone a bit too far, and massive heat wave going on here as well as California. So they haven't been able to import quite enough electricity. So they're having to have scheduled blackouts in different areas to protect the whole grid from going down.
Yeah, that's unpleasant. Now, let me just say this. Holy crap, would it be hot in my 2-story house if there was a blackout, and California is getting that Death Valley heat wave. It's not quite that, but it's still, I think, like 112 in places in California, into the 40s in Celsius. Like, come on. That's, you got to have air conditioning, man. I don't want to be a first world guy here, but wow. That no exhaust fan is gonna take care of you there.
I managed to cool my house down last night to about 23.5 with my exhaust fan.
See, I couldn't sleep in 23.5.
No?
No. I'm a cool sleeper, man. I need my cool. I mean, I could sleep. I just wouldn't sleep. It would be restless sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I have different priorities than you. I guess some people can sleep in 23.5, but certainly not me.
Okay, there's a bus company in Canada, MTB Transit Solutions, in Milton, Ontario, and they've introduced this service where they are going to convert your diesel-powered buses to electric.
Why?
Because electric is better. They figure that there's just it's going to be a long transition as we transition to electric vehicles. So apparently there are 16,000 transit buses in Canada, and we have less than 100 of them are battery electric. So there's still a lot of life left in these 16,000 buses. So I think it does make sense to convert some of these.
Now, a lot of buses last about 12 years, I understand, maybe less. But that's kind of the life cycle of a bus. So when you want to replace one, if you just bought one yesterday as diesel, it's 12 years before you can buy an electric one to replace it. I don't get, though, unless they're older buses that have half their life left, how that's economically feasible. Because, the diesel engine can be taken out and sold for parts, I'm sure, to service other buses. But I don't see it. I don't see it.
That's because you're a cynic.
Right. We're back to our normal places here on the show. I'm the cynic and you're the optimist, a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah, well, they say they can do it for $500,000, which is about half the cost of a new electric bus.
Electric bus is $1 million?
Apparently, that's what, according to Green Tech. Now we're on Electric Autonomy Canada is where this story comes from.
Oh, I thought electric buses were closer to 280 or something. Maybe it depends on do they have a wet bar in them? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, disco lounge.
Amphibious. Brian, I want to talk about Joe Biden, or President Joe, as I like to call him. He just picked his running mate, and he's got the Democratic Convention, and I happened to come across a sort of a campaign video of his. I don't know where I came across it. Maybe I saw somebody mention it on Twitter, where he's talking about EVs, but boy, does he sound like a boomer who just discovered EVs. Here's a clip.
This is iconic industry. How can American-made vehicles no longer be out there? I believe that we can own the 21st century market again by moving to electric vehicles. And by the way, they tell me, and I'm looking forward, if it's true, to driving one, that they're making an electric Corvette and go 200 miles an hour. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. So I'm excited about it.
Okay, boomer. Looks like somebody told him electric vehicles exist. Joe's progressive, but he probably doesn't know much. He's not listening to our podcast every week. Let's put it that way.
He's not?
No, he's pictured in this video driving a classic old car from the 50s and how he loves it and how the driving position is great, but how, he wants to bring American jobs back by making EVs in the States, which you could do, but it's probably going to happen in China. I'm sorry, Joe. Although,
yeah, well, there's certainly a green aspect to their platform, so that's something.
Yeah. We'll see. What makes me wonder though is every day the Trump administration is rolling back environmental regulations, almost to cause chaos. Like it seems like some of them are like, why are you even doing that? Who does that benefit? Like what evil polluter are you buckling to do this one regulation? It's going to take, they have to undo all the undoing. It's going to take a massive amount of work.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Go out and vote, people. And Brian, when the U.S. Postal Service sends you that hat, ask for a ballot.
Yes, and I will say, the other thing I did this morning was I signed up for a mail-in ballot for our local provincial election. You can sign up ahead of time so that you can vote by mail.
How did that go? Because I was about to do that, and then I had to go do something else. How was it, that process?
It was good. Just takes a couple of minutes. You have to take a photo of your driver's license and upload that as part of the process.
Better to do it on your phone than your computer then?
I took the picture on my phone and then transferred the picture to my computer, but...
all of us have that skill. Okay, fine.
And there's also an option to just print out a form, which you fill out and mail in. So there is a mail-in option.
Okay, Brian. Well, I've got some listener feedback. You may be surprised, but we have listener feedback this week. John Klein says, I don't trust BP to switch energy modes to the clean energy because that's something we talked about last week. He also had a comment on my half fake, half real burgers. They were half plant-based, half cow beef mixed together, and they were tasted like 112% crap. And he said he's been doing that at home for years, mixing half real burgers just for the climate, which is good for him. Guy rides an electric bike in winter. Good for him. Another guy says here, Don, our regular listener, says, I had a Canuck Tire battery. That's Canadian Tire. He's speaking colloquially here. Had a Connect Tire battery lawnmower for over a dozen years. Well, good for you, Don. Way before us, I see. Maybe you should have started a podcast, huh? Big lead acid battery. I've got, this one probably predates mine. I've got 2 small lead acid batteries. He says it worked great, but now I find it to be more environmentally friendly to not have any lawns. Well, way to go, Don. He is out environmentally, and that's your comment, Brian.
Yeah, so we were trying to replace our front lawn with just clover, which is something that needs less water and less maintenance. But I didn't do a very good job at it, so it's still kind of a crappy, weedy lawn. But yeah, I agree. I would like to get rid of our lawns, but we have a bit too much yard space to cover. And I don't know, grass seems to be, especially for the backyard, it seems to be the only solution I can think of anyway.
Well, I'm sure there's clover, and some people have tried sort of that sort of thing, but I like, I have very little lawn in my backyard. I sort of have it as my walking paths in a little area. That's all that's left. But I like it. I like the contact with the earth. It feels like when I'm on the ground, that it's a different sort of feeling when you're getting away from the world. Another comment on my half plant, half meat burger. Half plant, half meat. Created in a lab that sounds like a Frankenburger to me. Just stick to the real beef as endorsed by the Saskatchewan Stock Growers, Canadian Cattlemen Association, Farmer Larry, and me. I think that was sarcastic. I'm not sure. And another person said, I found the latest podcast by the Clean Energy Pod to be especially useful at providing a likely glimpse of the near future of technology, and it's produced right here in Regina. Well, thank you, listener. That is a compliment. And yes, we try to look towards the future as best we can. We're not researching it ourselves. We're just finding this information, having a discussion about it every week, which we find very, very enjoyable, don't we?
Yeah. So I think I heard one time that lawns, like people's lawns, are the single biggest energy resource crop in North America.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really?
And that's why you should get rid of your lawn.
Oh dear.
Nothing takes more energy and resources in terms of growing than think about all the lawns we have in North America. And it's not, especially here where we are, a particularly good climate for lawns. And we got to fight weeds all the time, and the constant mowing, the constant watering. Oh. It's just a terrible idea of what to do with our resources.
My neighbor watered his lawn twice yesterday during the heat wave. Once at 7:30 in the morning, which I thought, okay, good. He's up at 7:30. He's watering before it evaporates. But then in the middle of the afternoon, he's watering it again for hours.
Yeah.
And, it's going to turn to steam before it hits the freaking lawn or before it soaks in. It's just, and you could tell, Brian, the water pressure is actually low because people are watering their lawns. Now, I'm watering my plants, trying to keep them alive, and I haven't entirely succeeded. Anyway, we love hearing from you, everyone, and here is how.
James and Brian want to hear from you. Email cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. Tweet at us, Clean Energy Pod on Twitter, and speakpipe.com/cleanenergyshow to leave a voicemail.
Hey, what else do you have for us this week? Anything else on the horizon for clean energy, Brian Stockton?
Well, who's our new announcer there? How much are we paying that guy? He's got a great, deep voice. That's really, that's impressive.
You don't get that without testosterone shots. That's all I'm saying. Okay, go ahead.
Of course. One last story here from Clean Technica. The value of rooftop solar power in Michigan, 24 cents per kilowatt hour. According to a recent study. And I bring this up because of the recent debacle we went through here in our home province, where they basically killed the rooftop solar industry because, I don't know, who knows why they did it. But depending on how you study it, this one particular study found that it's actually worth more than what the customers pay for the grid. So it's going to depend on how you do your study and how you work the numbers. There are other studies that suggest it should be paid less than grid price. But depending on how you use the numbers, our local utilities should probably be actually paying us more than the going rate for our rooftop solar.
Really?
Yeah. And it's too long and complicated to get into here in the podcast. Also, I don't understand it, which is really the main reason. But yeah, there's a way to calculate the value of all of these different power sources. And, you know, you could look at it as something useful and say, hey, this is really useful. It'd be great to have all these people on the grid with rooftop solar. Or you can be dictatorial and say, we don't want this and shut down the whole industry.
Okay. Well,
and you can use different studies to justify different purposes.
Right. And, you know, it's a shame that our oil producing neighbor, Alberta, has better incentives than us. And the United States as a whole has more incentives than us. And they're terrible at a lot of things.
Yeah, we have to clean up the grid, and it just doesn't make sense to be cheap when it comes to rooftop solar. And also, you know, it's psychological. People want to do something, and you put up solar on your roof. That should be encouraged because people want to do something to help the environment.
Oh, Brian, I should have brought this up earlier, but according to National Resources Canada, driving a vehicle with an internal combustion engine at 120 kilometers per hour, as you do, burns 20% more fuel than driving the same distance at 100 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, I've always known that. It's like...
Okay, I knew that too, but here's what I didn't know. I didn't know that it was largely because air resistance increases exponentially at higher speeds. I had no idea. I thought it was just because the engine was running at a less efficient RPM.
No, it's wind resistance, and for some reason it gets exponentially worse. So yeah, if you're ever running low on charge or running low on fuel, the best thing to do is slow down, and you'll get better mileage.
Okay, so... I wanted to point out that I got a call from my Nissan dealership. They have my name because I took the car in there once and talked to them. And, yeah, they said it's time for your service. And I said to the lady, I said, my car is an electric car and your dealership does not service electric cars. Now in Saskatchewan, there's about roughly five Nissan dealerships, and only one of them, and they're in the north, actually is certified for electric cars. None of the other people have spent the I don't know if it's 50,000, one of the dealer guys told me, or something like that. So she just said, oh, sorry, and hung up. And that was that.
Yeah, and it's the year, what year is this again? 2020?
Yeah, Nissan's got a new vehicle coming out. In fact, I saw an ad for it on a soccer game in England. It was on the board, on the electronic board on the side of the soccer field. It's called the Ira or the Ira or something like that. It's the compact SUV, crossover SUV. And Aria. It's not coming out. We won't see it here in North America until 2022. And we're not going to officially have a pet peeve segment here about this, but this is a pet peeve of mine, is when car companies advertise something that just to show that they're advanced and they don't really care about it. Because 2022, you don't start advertising a car that's 2 years out. Maybe it's 1 year out in Britain, but it's still a ways out. It's still, they don't even have a they don't have a production vehicle anywhere time soon. They haven't even started making them yet.
No, and I saw a Ford commercial on television the other day, and they do have the electric Mustang coming out soon-ish, but it was pretty odd to watch a TV commercial where really all they talked about was electric vehicles, and they still don't sell one, or not a real one.
No, and you know, I'm quite excited about the Mustang because, I mean, no one's reviewed it officially yet, and no one's driven it. People have driven in it. But by all accounts, it seems to be a very compelling car at a compelling price, relatively speaking. It's still quite expensive, but yeah, I'm looking forward to see. I'm hoping the reviews are good and it sells like hotcakes. Also, Brian, I wanted to mention that a friend of mine, Tracy, was doing a short bike ride to the library when a bee flew in her shirt, and it caused her to panic. And yes, this is funny at first. And then she crashed and hit her head hard on the asphalt, and I saw her bike helmet. It was in nasty shape. So she's telling everyone to wear your helmets, and she got her head checked at the clinic, and she went out and bought, thanks to our podcast, a MIPS helmet.
Rotational brain protection.
Yes, she has a master's degree.
So her brain is
you
worth...
people with your degrees, your multiple degrees, your higher level of education, need to protect those brains, whereas... basically, a half watermelon will be fine enough for my brain. So yes, and also the Saskatchewan Electric Vehicle Association was tweeting at SGI about co-rolling, which is an issue for EV owners. These are people who modify their diesel trucks to put basically chimneys in them and bypass the emissions so that black smoke comes out. And that's called co-rolling because those people are morons and have issues with the world and want to destroy it and look macho doing it. At least they think they do, but they're just disgusting individuals who should be put in prison on an island and a TV show made about them that we all watch and enjoy. However, they often, if they see a Tesla, they are, or an electric car, they are threatened by this somehow. So they will drive in front of you and, blow smoke at you. So they were asking, is this legal where we live in Saskatchewan? And the Regina police got a response to them. And it said, if it's combined with loud noise, it can be a charge under the Traffic Safety Act or local traffic bylaws. But the smoke could possibly be a charge under the traffic safety regulations regarding stunting, but may not stand in court. So basically what they're saying is they're not going to do it. And we have late-breaking happy birthday message from Michael Danscock. Michael, thank you for the birthday wish. 6 months on the show here. Anyway, there's no specific charge for black smoke, which, my friend, and everyone listening, pisses me off because I see those people, and what do? I just race in front of them with my high torque electric motor, and they can eat my clean dust. And
now it is illegal in certain places, so check your local jurisdiction wherever you are. And of course, if you're a Tesla owner, make sure you hit the record button on the dash cam, and you can get a video of the coal rolling and hopefully capture the license plate too, in case it is illegal or you're able to make a complaint. I think you have to. I mean, belching black smoke, it's just not a thing that happens on a modern truck normally,
no,
right?
They're doing the opposite of it. They're making things less polluting. And, that diesel smoke is really hazardous, actually. Thank you very much. It is like one of the most hazardous gases out there. So they said, well, one of the Joel Murray, who now follows us on Twitter, says, if they've messed with their emission systems, is that illegal? And they're asking our government insurance agency, and they said, we looked around and we're not sure who has this jurisdiction. So they don't even know. You can mess with and bypass your emission systems just fine in this province, which is disgusting. Now, it's not going to save the world. It's not going to wreck the world, but it's not helping either, and people shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's disgusting. Thank you.
Okay, so I just did some quick Googling while you were talking there, because I remembered that there was a story about this that I read a few months ago, and I found it here. TV's Diesel Brothers to pay $850,000 U.S. fine for rolling coal. So these are guys that have a TV show where they purposely modify vehicles. And so they basically have a television show that documented how they were breaking the law in the place that they live. And so they got an $850,000 fine because people watched their TV show.
How do they find advertisers for these things? Is this on Discovery or something? I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the network here. It is the Discovery Channel. How about that? Yeah.
Let me just augment that. So I had laughter standing by there for you. And if you people out there listening know about, have ever been coal rolled, you can give us a story about it. Or if you know about your jurisdiction talking about it, know what your things are, your regulations are in your area and laws. But, it would be like the drug dealer down my street making a TV show about being a drug dealer. And
exactly, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And Discovery going, oh, okay, that sounds like a good one. We'll throw that one on the air. Brian, I've got a new segment for you, and our announcer in Sweden has not made a new intro for this, but I have a new segment called EV Stupid Questions. We teased it last week. And this is I don't mean to be insulting to people because there are no stupid questions. We want to hear them all about EVs, but we get them, and people really don't understand EVs, and they haven't done the any research at all. And they're just confused by them. And like I've always said, it's a battery and a motor. I mean, there's nothing complicated about it. So our first EV question, and the style of this segment is me. I'm going to pose the EV question and have you answer it, you expert. And I said I was going to have one question from last week, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to throw that question away for now. I'm going to have a brand new question because I just saw it the other day. Do you need a garage to have an EV?
Of course not. That's a stupid question. Oh, wait. We're not supposed to say they're stupid questions?
Yes, it is. Why don't you need a garage?
Well, why would you need a garage? I mean, you just need a plug-in. You just need a wall outlet. I've got a carport. I don't have a garage, and I have not yet owned the car during the winter, but just keeping it plugged in when it's minus 40, it can keep itself warm just by being plugged into the wall there. So there's no need for a garage.
No, there's not. And my driveway comes up and butts against my house, and I have the electrician just installed a outlet there, 240 volt outlet for powering a up to a 6.6 kilowatt charger. So yeah, it's you know, and you can get a long cord too. I mean, mine's 25 feet, but you could even get longer ones if you needed it. So no, you don't need one. And yes, it does help a little bit because it keeps the car a little bit warmer. If it's on heated garage, and it works less to, you might have a little bit more range on the cold days than you would otherwise. But basically, no, you do not need a garage. And you know what, Brian? I think many years ago I had that question. Young James, thinking about EVs, actually did have that question at one time himself. So,
But at least if you did have a garage, you could have the car plugged in or turned on or warming up, and you wouldn't have to worry about asphyxiating yourself or your family.
Is that everything, Brian? Are we ready to move on to the you-know-what?
Let's move on.
All right, people, it's time. The big part of the show, the part that you're always looking forward to.
The Clean Energy Show Lightning Round. The lightning round hits James against Brian in a flurry of headlines from this week's news. Let's begin here now, James Woodingham.
Brian, Tesla deploys batteries at Oil-Rich Qatar's first solar storage project. They're putting Tesla batteries at Qatar's first solar storage project. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Qatar is a real oil-rich place, but they're not just sitting idle and relying on that. They've actually got a lot of clean energy type initiatives in Qatar. I mean, maybe they've seen the writing on the wall, and they know that's not going to last forever. So I think this is a fairly small kind of test pilot project, but certainly a move in the right direction. Similar to, we talked about a similar project in Alberta, our oil-rich province next door to us. And I think theirs was an even bigger battery. Do you recall?
No, I don't have the details on that. My brain has lost those. But it was big. It was significant. It wasn't
yeah, and the one in Qatar, it's pretty small, but it's a move in the right direction. And places that have oil should also be thinking about clean energy.
Okay, Brian. Elon Musk says full self-driving might be coming in 6 to 10 weeks. Do you believe it?
Yes.
66% of our listeners don't believe it. A Twitter poll says so. You actually believe it?
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, I do believe it. I think it'll be like 99% there. And of course, we're years away from the regulations that would allow you to actually not pay attention. So it's fairly easy to say it's full self-driving as long as the driver is still required to be there, pay attention at all times, be touching the wheel at all times. So yes, I do believe it.
Wow. I'm shocked.
So yeah, just as an example, we were talking a few weeks ago about the adaptive cruise, and you were saying in your Toyota Prius, you stopped using it because it didn't start the car up fast enough, like you're at a red light, and it will start your car to follow the car in front of you, but it was too slow, so you stopped using it. Is that right?
No, I did use it. I just don't use it at stoplights. Like I will do my own braking at stoplights and press my gas. I won't let it accelerate from a stoplight because it's like a quarter of a second or half second too long. But other than that, I do use it, yes.
Right, because I was having the same issue in my Tesla when I first bought it, where it wouldn't start fast enough, and they've issued some kind of update, and that's no longer the case. It now starts up faster, so I have no problem using it at a stoplight. because they've made that improvement. So I think it is coming very soon.
Okay, I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Tesla battery researchers mention enabling electric aircraft with new batteries. Did you see that one?
Yeah, this is their potential high energy density battery. And didn't we talk about that last week even?
But yeah, there was a story about it out this week. Tesla, and I should have brought this up earlier, but Tesla has actually asked owners in California to relieve the stress on the grid and not charge during peak hours. Did you see that one? They're actually set a notification.
Right, yeah, that's part of that rolling blackout issue, is that Tesla can push out a notice to all the Tesla owners saying, try to avoid charging during the peak times, which is like around supper time.
And finally this week, because we're just out of time, from The Independent, skyscraper glass solar PV is coming. We've been hearing about this for years. And a team from the University of Michigan has used an organic carbon-based design to transform sunlight into electricity with an efficiency rate of 8.1%. Now, solar panels now are, ours are probably, 18, 19%? And maybe the high end is 22% efficiency of what they can turn into electricity. And 8.1 is like solar panels from that documentary we were dissing this from like 15 years ago. It's an old rate, but it does work. It lets the light through. They're not regular solar panels, but 8.1 is not bad. Commercial solar panels were typically made using silicon rather than carbon, tend to have an efficiency rate 14 to 19% or more. So yeah, what do you think about that? I think it could actually be coming.
No, that's great. I think that makes sense. If you've got all that glass surface area, you might as well use it, even if it's kind of a low efficiency. But also, too, is it going to protect birds? Because if there's some type of pattern on the window, then birds aren't going to run into the glass?
I don't know that there is a pattern. I don't know if there is that sort of electric sort of pattern, sort of the grid of Tron-like grid on the panels at all. But it's one of those things that I'm skeptical of because it's been taking a long time and it seems like it could be decades away. But they've actually got it down here at 8.1%, and we'll start doing tests on it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is good news, and it's also the time we have for our show. It's been a fun 6 months, Brian, and I look forward to the next 1920s of the 1920s or 2020s, where we see an exciting transition to clean technology, and we'll be following it for you. Brian, it's been fun. Like I said, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.